All right, on this Garlic Marketing Show, we're going to talk about the life of from a direct to consumer brand that does cases, Condition One, how they were struggling with their ads, and then they went to work with Tier 11, who helped to turn it around really quickly, get some big wins right away, crush Black Friday, and help to move towards their goals of doubling the revenue year over year. I got Romina from Tier 11. Romina, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
And you won't want to miss this because, especially if you're considering hiring an agency or you are an agency and want to listen to what it takes to really deliver world-class results. This is an amazing episode. And of course, this episode is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best things that you can be using for your agency or any brand are your success stories. Go to videocasestory.com where we help you collect, craft, and deliver those. All right, let's get started.
My name is Gino Wickman. I was introduced to Ian, and that's what brought me into this video world and got me embracing this video world. And Ian did exactly what I hoped. He got me really comfortable with putting videos out to the world and having a great strategy around putting videos out to the world, because there's so much more than just shooting a video. And so the way that he positions those videos, optimizes those videos, he's done a great job.
All right. And so tell us a little bit about, just in general, what Tier 11 does. And you know what, we've had Ralph on, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, definitely. So at the heart, we're a digital marketing agency, but I like to tell our clients that they should really consider us more of a business partner than an agency. And so the reason behind that is we really go beyond just offering our digital marketing services. So whether that be from a paid media standpoint or after the click, creative, data, all that fun stuff. But we really try and align ourselves with the client's goals. So we do this in a number of different ways. I'll give you a quick example. What we really care about is what is the client's revenue target. For instance, let's say they give us a revenue target. We're not looking at how did paid media contribute to one piece of the pie, but we're actually looking at how are they doing overall and how can we help them overall. So we'll never really report on like in-platform revenue, because at the end of the day, what matters is like their Shopify revenue, for instance, if they're on Shopify.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think this goes with a lot of clients. So a lot of clients come to you wanting a specific number and thinking that's all you're about is like a specific click-through rate or
Yeah.
CPA or something.
Yeah, exactly. So a portion of it will also just to help guide clients from a measurement standpoint as well. Because to your point, they might think like, okay, we have an X number of dollars revenue target for the year. We'll give you a KPI of like ROAS, for example. And the problem with ROAS, as we know as digital marketers, is that it varies from platform to platform based on attribution. So we try to guide them and educate them on how best to measure the performance of our services, but of their other digital marketing efforts as well, to really work towards achieving their top line goal, which is revenue and revenue growth.
Gotcha. And so, um, when you, talk to me about what the end results that you got for Condition One, and then let's talk a little bit about when they first came to you.
Yeah, definitely. So when Condition One first came to us, they were dealing with a Google Ads account that was not really scaled up and that was built with a lot of inefficiencies in it. So they didn't really feel like they could scale it up because of poor structure, because of past performance that didn't look promising in platform. And from a meta ad standpoint, they felt that they didn't really know how to evaluate what was working and what was not working, because the information that they were previously being fed from what was performing and not performing in meta was quite misleading. So step one with this client was just doing a big account cleanup on the meta side and on the Google side. And so we really started by setting up foundations to educate them on what we wanted to do and then do it. So what does that mean? We explained to them that, hey guys, like looking at your account right now, you're only addressing parts of the levels of traffic. You don't really have tactics that are addressing cold traffic as much as it's addressing retargeting. And so once we've explained that to them, we're like, this is how we're going to move away from that tactic and start looking at more full funnel solutions. And this is how we'll measure the success of it. So I can't remember where this quote is from, but tell people what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then told them you've done it. That's pretty much how we like to run things here. And
Um, well, real quick before we move on, when you're saying, the Google Analytics account or the Google Ads account wasn't set up properly, what were some indicators that it wasn't set up properly?
is it okay if we ask media buyers those questions?
Sure.
It might be better. It might be better from them. They'll give you a more like technical answer on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So tell me then about this deep dive, the first stage. Can you get a little more detail about that first stage? Like what was the goal that Condition One wanted when they came to you, and what was the first stage with them?
Definitely. So they came to us with pretty aggressive revenue targets. They wanted to more than double their their overall revenue targets in 2024, and then double them again in 2025. So we were like, all right, we have our work cut out for us. So what we did is we prepared. So we first addressed the foundations from a traffic standpoint, so cleaning up the account, a creative standpoint, ensuring we had a strategy for creative production as opposed to ad hoc ad creation, and then setting up a data suite solution to ensure that we're looking at all the right numbers, not just from in-platform attribution, but also from their email marketing system and their marketing platform, like their e-commerce platform being Shopify. Once those foundations were established, we put together a plan to work towards that 12.5. And we were very straightforward in that plan saying, hey, like with paid traffic, this is how much weight we can hold. But on your end, we'll need to push for organic, for email growth, because it's unrealistic to say, hey, paid ads are currently carrying 50% of the weight. Let's have it carry 80% of the weight. That's not a sustainable strategy. So we wanted to make sure and be clear from the get-go that, hey, we can help you. This is what we recommend you doing to carry your side of the weight on organic and email, so that together we can work towards hitting that revenue target for the year.
And when they came to you, I mean, you see a lot of people come from, because there's 8,000 media buyers out there. That's a low number, probably like a couple 100,000. How many media buyers would say, sure, we can do that, and not push back on that holistic view?
Definitely. So many media buyers would stop at, all right, this is what we can hit with paid, or all right, you want to hit all of that with paid, give us more ad spend. We're trying to think of it from a business standpoint, but also from like a channel agnostic standpoint, because it's really important to say, okay, we have our paid ads channel. We know historically how much paid ads can contribute to. We know how much we can scale paid ads more. But also, if we're sending all this traffic to your website, what are we doing about your website to make sure that it's converting? That's when CRO comes into the picture. So we're helping them with that full funnel strategy after the click as well.
Gotcha. And when you did this, what was the time of year that they came to you? Because it was a pretty important time of the year for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So Condition One got onboarded a week and a half before Black Friday, which is typically something we would be worried about because they didn't have a Black Friday promo yet decided on. They didn't have Black Friday assets created. They didn't have Black Friday ads built. So we had a really quick turnaround thanks to the pod structure that we have at tier 11. So we work in these cross-functional pods, which means even if we'll have lead media buyers on the account, if everyone needs to be all hands on deck, we have multiple resources we can pull from in the pod. And so we were able to not only give them a successful onboarding, but at the same time turn around a Black Friday strategy and a creative strategy to support paid ads very, very quickly, like in under a week, and set it all up. and we had a very successful Black Friday. We beat not only their expectations, but last year's performance.
Awesome, awesome. And um, when would you usually start planning for Black Friday?
So usually we would start planning for Black Friday, depending on the size of the client and how much ad spend is backed by it. Um, at minimum a month before. Typically, we start talking about Black Friday in the digital marketing world, I would say in Q2, Q3 of the year, as opposed to Q4. So planning a strategy a week and a half before it was definitely different. It was very close to when I started at Tier 11. I had started like a month and a half before, so I was a little worried because I didn't know like the team and everything yet. And I was like so pleasantly surprised with how we were able to collaborate and work together in that pod structure to not only manage the client's expectations, get what we needed from them, but also execute and like surpass expectations.
What were the key elements to like surpassing the expectations, really crushing it on that Black Friday?
Definitely. So the key elements to crushing it on Black Friday were, I would say, twofold. One, project management. We needed to make sure that everyone knew what they needed to do from the client side and on our end, and making sure we were executing at that level really quickly. But on the other side as well, obviously, um, getting as many resources as we could to be able to set up everything that was needed in an efficient manner. So that meant addressing any low hanging fruit that we saw in the account that didn't follow best practices, while at the same time building ads that we knew are winning strategies for an e-commerce business, like they are.
Great. And how, you say project management is so important in this, from a client standpoint, what should they be looking for in that type of project management and communication if they're hiring an agency like you?
Definitely. So, from a project management perspective, when hiring Tier 11, you can expect that you'd be working with a client success owner like myself, which means you'd have one dedicated point of contact for which you can call, email, Slack, whenever. And my job is to really represent the client and act as the stakeholder towards my pod, towards my team, to ensure that every needs are met and exceeded. But
Wow.
also having that cross-functional pod and that cross-functional team ensures that whatever questions and requests do come from the client, not only can we answer those, but we can also anticipate and suggest and build out strategies that look at all the pillars of a conversion engine.
Nice. And so you made it through Black Friday. Now you're looking at doubling, year over year, which is a pretty aggressive revenue target. What types of ads, what types of creatives, what types of planning does it take to hit that type of target for Condition One or any client?
Definitely. I would say it starts with a pretty hefty digital marketing plan that breaks down what are we trying to hit, not only by quarter, but by month. So that holds us accountable to not just, putting a finger up in the air and guessing when are we going to hit a certain number, but it helps us look at historical trends. What do we think we can hit in Q1 versus Q3, for instance, and planning ad spend accordingly. But also, we're not just talking about paid ads, planning what organic and email need to hit. So what's been happening is every month when we're reporting on performance and we're looking at the other channels, if we're seeing that paid ads are overreaching and email and organic are not hitting their targets, we start talking to the client about proposing solutions to ensure that we're not just relying on paid ads. We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. So planning and continuous performance and measurement of data would be number one. Number two is ensuring that we have all our ducks in a row from, paid ads to after the click. So not only did we establish some full funnel strategies which in Q4, which we've been scaling and building on and testing, but also looking at what are we doing after the click from a CRO and an SEO point of view? What are we doing for creatives? And what are we and how is everything performance? So we're continuously in this like performance loop, if you will, of testing, gathering data, making decisions and on what's working and scaling that continuously.
And what do you think the difference is between, the previous agency's ability and your ability especially when it comes to that performance loop and the level of knowledge that allowed you to do this?
Definitely. So the difference that they've called out between their previous agency and Tier 11, we actually have a quote from their managing director, Dayton, who referred to us as flying in outer space versus their old agency being a horse and buggy. So if that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what does. But essentially, in more detail, they really appreciate our expertise from a holistic perspective, in the sense that we are helping them hit their revenue targets as a business partner, and we have the best media buyers, the best creative strategists, and the best CRO, SEO teams to do this. And something that came up on a recent call as well, the fact that we're actually executing on what we're saying we're going to execute, whether that's an idea from the client or an idea that we had internally, they felt that other agencies they've worked with would talk the talk, but not necessarily walk the walk. So they came to us, for example, in January with a quote unquote crazy idea of giveaways on a monthly basis. And we actually went and executed that for them, even beyond what was from a paid media strategy, what we needed for giveaways, helping them understand what they would need to set it up on their end as well.
Nice. And they did mention that, because I talked to them, that you're constantly bringing new ideas that work. How does when you're working with Condition One, how do you go through that cycle of new ideas? How are you constantly coming up with new plans, new ideas, new ads to make things work better for them?
Definitely. So I would say that's due to two things. One, we really have the best of the best in the pod when it comes to media buyers, creative strategists, data analysts. They are all constantly learning and testing. They have multiple accounts that they work with. So not only can they learn from other accounts, but they can also learn from various trainings that they're attending, various independent research that they're doing, which is really a huge benefit from working with an agency. You're not just looking at the account in question, like Condition One, you're looking at the overall industry as a whole. And from a second perspective, working in a cross-functional pod with various team members that are all stakeholders for this client, we have different types of ideas that come up. So the onus is not just on the media buyer to come up with ideas. Sometimes I'll come up with ideas. The creative strategist will come up with ideas. People that are not even managing the Condition One account, because we're all talking about Condition One together, will come up with ideas that we then all bring up to the client, whether they're small, big, crazy, out of the box, inside the box ideas. And we bring them up frequently, discuss the pros, the cons with the client. And if they're on board, then hey, let's go do it.
Love it. Love it. And they mentioned too that the communication is fantastic with you all. How do you how do you maintain that level of communication that's the right amount where you're not over communicating, but you're keeping and helping that things be clear to them?
So the way we maintain an efficient level of communication with the client is a few things. During the onboarding phase, it's kind of like, if you will, the engagement period before the wedding, where we're trying to understand how the client prefers communicating. So Condition One works very well in Slack, which is great. And we ensure that our Slack bases are very organized. We use threads, we title our post, etc. And we also noticed that this client specifically, we don't necessarily need to get on a call with them every week. A bi-weekly call works. We sometimes add in some ad hoc calls if something big has come up and we need to discuss it. But being flexible and adapting to what works with them, with their schedule and with their communication methods. So it's not really a one-size-fits-all approach, but also having the onus on the client success owner, so myself, to be the main point of contact really helps. If they just have a really quick question, they don't know who to CC, who to address it to, they can funnel everything through me, I'll include whoever is appropriate for it. And then as a team, we work to ensure that all messages are replied in a very timely fashion so that we don't have any backlog. So whether that be following up with the client or just knowing that, we have to reply to them and we have to meet a certain level of like standard level um, for success, it's really a team effort.
And you mentioned before being like business partners. Can you give me some examples of you all being business partners with, what were some of the ways that you did that with Condition One?
Definitely. So when we're thinking about being business partners as opposed to just an agency, it means two things. It means that one, we feel that their revenue targets as a whole are our revenue targets. So that means that, yes, if paid ads is hitting their targets, that's good, but that's not enough. What's happening with your other channels? Are you going to be able to achieve your business targets? Not your paid ad targets, your business targets. And if not, how can we help? How can we generate ideas for you? How can we get you the help if we can't offer it? That's part one. Part two is really just keeping them in mind as that business partner. So there's been a few instances where we've had opportunities we could bring up to the client that are quite out of the box. So, for example, I was realizing that one of our other clients had an overlap in their niche with Condition One. So we actually proposed to do a collaboration between both brands and, do some cross marketing, do some giveaways together. And that's going really beyond just thinking about my paid ads. It's thinking about what does Condition One need as a business. Another example is really representing the brand and being a brand advocate. I was on another client call and I was doing some small talk as I do, because as you can see, I really like to talk. And this client specifically was, talking to me about one of their hobbies and how they were in the market for new hard cases and they were shopping for one of Condition One's competitors. They didn't know about Condition One yet. I could have just let that comment slide, but I actually ended up pitching them on why Condition One is a better brand than the competitors. And they ended up not only agreeing and buying Condition One products, but also wanting to become a B2B partner because they thought it would be great to order hard cases for their own business.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you're doing individual sales too.
I should have an affiliate link.
You should. You should. That's fantastic. So tell me about the end results that you got for Condition One.
Sorry, the media buyers will have like exact numbers better than me. So is it?
Okay. Well, can you tell me about like, did you hit the did Condition One hit the revenue goals?
Yeah. So far to date, I've told you they're trying to double their revenue targets. Q1, we had a phenomenal start with January and February. What we're seeing right now in March is a bit of a slowdown, which is expected. They've had tremendous growth in the past 1 to 2 years. Eventually that, very aggressive like growth is going to start stabilizing. So when that stability started becoming evident in the numbers, we actually got on a call immediately with the client to try and plan for what are we going to do? What plans are we going to have to revise in order to still hit towards that, work towards that 12.5. Like they're actually don't use that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say 12.5, so I'm going to rephrase that.
No problem.
Okay, great. So when we met with them, we actually ended up revising the plans to work towards how can we actually hit their revenue targets even with this slowdown. So what did this mean? This meant looking at all their other channels, seeing what adjustments we need to make there, revising the plans in ad spend and revenue targets we had per month and per quarter, and even recommending pulling back on ad spend for now because we were looking at their main KPI, which is MER, which is your monthly like your total advertising spend on your total revenue, or the opposite of that. And
can you say that again?
Yeah, so we were in how. Okay, so from where?
No, just like we were looking at, their total revenue versus their total spend.
Yeah, for sure. So we actually recommend pulling back ad spend because one of their main KPIs being MER, which is your total revenue for your total business, not just paid ads with all your total cost. So like ad spend. um, and and notice that, hey, yes, we're having this slowdown, but now it's becoming more serious if we're below that MER target. So we actually recommended pulling back ad spend and funneling it back into Q3, Q4, where we're expecting better performance. So that's not something you're going to see many advertising agencies do, saying, oh, we should pull back on ad spend, because many advertising agencies, are billing based on ad spend, want ads to look the best. We're not thinking about that. We're thinking, hey, what's best for that client's total top line revenue and for their business?
Love it. And when someone's coming to you for something like this, what do you feel are the biggest mistakes? That's if someone's hiring an agency, let's say that they want to run the ads. What are the biggest mistakes when they first come in and are comparing agency to agency, or biggest questions that they don't ask or should ask?
Definitely. So I think the biggest misconception companies may have when hiring an agency is expecting immediate results. Day to night, we're just going to scale ad spend and everyone's going to be happy and revenue is going to double. Yes, you've hired the right business partner by hiring tier 11, but the first step before entering a performance loop model, as I was explaining, so experimenting, growing, all that fun stuff, is establishing solid foundations, because not all clients will come to tier 11 and be in the same phase. They might not have any measurement tools beyond ad platforms or Google Analytics, which is not the best way to measure performance. They might not have a creative strategy yet. They might not have a built ad account with established wins we can start scaling on. So what we try to do is really communicating during the sales process with the client what phase we would slot them as, and making sure we set expectations with what that rollout plan is going to look like. We're not going to be able to double your revenue day one. This is what it's going to look like in reality, and establish a plan with them.
Gotcha. What was your biggest win working with Condition One?
My biggest win working with Condition One, they were actually the first client I've ever onboarded at tier 11. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say they're my favorite client, but they're definitely up there. They have really been able to see the success that we've been able to bring, not only in our relationship, but in the performance. And that's allowed us to expand the number of services we actually offer them, because they see the value in partnering with tier 11. They came in only looking for data suite, meta ads, Google ads, and creative strategy. They are now also working with us for TikTok ads, LinkedIn ads, CRO, and SEO. So within less than 6 months, we've basically doubled the amount of services we're offering them.
Nice. That's amazing. And so, if anyone's looking to do this and work with tier 11, tell us a little bit about, the first steps of working with you.
Definitely. So if you want to come work with us at tier 11, the first step would really to reach out to us via the website or directly with any of our team members on LinkedIn, however you'd want to communicate with us. And what we'll do is we'll start by having a discovery call with our sales team. The discovery call is really meant to see if you think we'd be a good partner for you, but for us to establish if we think you'd be a good partner for us. Once we've moved from that discovery call, we'll perform an audit of not only your advertising channels, but your measurement, your creative strategy, basically all the pillars of a conversion engine. Once we've audited this and prepared recommendations, if you like what you hear, then we'd move towards a scope. So the scope is where you'd meet someone like me, the client success owner, to make sure that from the audit, we're including in the project what you would want to include, and that you know what to expect. So yes, we're going to manage your ads, but what does that mean? Does that mean we are managing budget changes? Or does that mean we're building ads? Does it mean all of it? Once we've agreed on a scope, only then will we actually say, hey, okay, great. Everyone's on the same page. You know what we're going to work on. Here's an agreement. Let's get started.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll put a link to tier 11 in the show notes. But Romina, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been fantastic.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thank you for taking us on your journey. This has been Iron Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.